Right, welcome back, guys. Another tech tip. I want to take a look at the bass once again and kind of tie this in with what we talked about with the ambience, putting something in to fill in the gaps sometimes. Now, you can do this again with pretty much any style of music, but typically, again, with more minimal stuff like melodic house and techno. I like to play around with more subtle stuff like this. You want to kind of keep the sort of obvious stuff to a minimum, like quite minimal. But it does give you room to kind of fill in the gaps with very, very subtle processing sometimes and little tweaks like I'm about to show you here. And I use a similar thing for the bass line on a recent release of mine called Viper. I actually had somebody ask me how I did the bass line, so I thought I'd cover it here for you guys. It's a fairly simple idea where you've got a central bass line again. You could do something more just along the lines of just layering like you typically would with multiple sounds on top of one another, but also like to sometimes just sort of explore recycling parts to create other interesting bits. One way that I do this often to layer up bass sounds is to use a delay, but a delay that's running at full wet, essentially. We're going to use this pluck bass that we had again, and I'll just illustrate this for you. What I would usually do here is then duplicate the bass line onto a new channel so that we've got a sort of another layer of this bass. But instead of using just the bass sound, what we're going to do is run a delay on top of this. So in this case, you may even want to try out a stereo delay for this. We could try ping pong first, and you want to just try and find the right groove for this. I think using a straight delay on this one is going to be best because of the nature of this pattern. And we're going to set this to full mix. And now we can start playing around with the actual full delay signal itself. Firstly, we're gonna cut a lot of this off. And we can go and add in some diffusion, for example, yeah. That's already providing some really, really interesting stuff for me there. Might just remove some of the dynamics from this as well, kind of squish it a little bit. You could even try something like playing around with an amp. We want to make sure that this one's set to stereo. Cool, there you go. So now you get some interesting movement happening there, and it still sounds like part of the actual bass. We've layered it up effectively now because we've actually, using a ping pong delay that's pushed this extra bit out to the sides completely. This is a stereo bass as it is right now, but we could actually narrow the width on this one slightly. Kind of make sure that it's really sitting in the center, and then you got all this other stuff happening on the sides. And you can take this further as well. It doesn't have to be the same sound. So we could actually go and maybe duplicate this one again. We'll remove the amp this time around. We'll keep the delay to keep ping pong things on the side. Maybe we'll switch up the timing for this one. And what I'm also going to do here is then remove these notes so we kind of switch the pattern up slightly. So we'll start off the offbeat one and go to the other two afterwards. So they're kind of playing opposites to each other now, the pattern. And then to differentiate this from the other stuff, to create another layer, yeah, we're maybe going to change the sound even. We could try, see what happens if we just go up an octave. This switched around the polarity of the delays. And let's differentiate this further by selecting another sound. So we can actually create another layer here now as well. Okay, so this is another one of my presets that I've got from the Melodic House and Techno pack for Anna 2. I'm just whacking that on to change the sound up so we've got something else, and they're still sitting very much in the stereo field. So you've still got this prominent mid bass playing that we had to start off with now, but we've kind of filled up the gaps with a whole bunch of other stuff, and I'm not trying to be too obvious with these again. I might even add in a filter onto this other one to kind of just dull it slightly more. It's really just kind of adding to the groove and kind of bringing up a little bit of ambience in the background. And the cool thing here is that you can kind of play around with these sounds a lot more and add more movement to them. So we could even maybe just add in some filter modulation here. Just to add in a bit of interest. Let's stick a compressor over the whole bus group as well, just to kind of bring them all together. And let's take a listen to it now with the kick again. Here we go. And just for reference, what it sounded like without. It's not really detracting from the bass, but it's just infinitely more interesting now. It's much wider, it sounds more full in the mix as well. Now what I would do here as well is just bounce these down to audio files, just so you have control over the delays more, they're not constantly running over into the track. You could play around with just shorter delay times as well. That might solve your problem here. I'm a little bit more anal when it comes to this kind of thing. I will cut these out, make sure that they are audio loops running like this instead, so that I have control over those delays. And if I was going to do key changes, I would then do the key changes in my MIDI here, and then again bounce that to a loop like this, just so I don't have that gap of silence at the beginning there. The delay is playing instantly from when you hit play, and you don't have the delays then running over into parts of the track you don't necessarily want. So this would be the finished product now. And there you go. Pretty interesting and very minimal work to go into that. It's just a bit of processing with the delays running at full using a ping pong, so you get that nice stereo effect happening. Cool. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.